Order. The House is resumed for questions for oral answer, and the first question stands in the name of the Honourable Leader of the Opposition. Point of order, the Honourable Jerry Brownlee.
Mr Speaker, to just make sure that we have a smooth running of question time. That's very unusual. Mr Speaker, just to ensure that we have a smooth run through question time, can I notify the House that it is the Government's desire that Dr Nick Smith would answer the question 5, but his plane is somewhat delayed. Can I suggest, sir, that if he is unavailable, question 5 replaces question 12 and we shuffle everything up the order? I seek leave for that to occur.
Is there any objection to that course of action? Did members hear that if the Minister for ACC is not in the House, that question 5 be dropped down the order paper to question to the bottom of the question paper? Any objection to that course of action? There is no objection. Question number 1, the Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr Speaker, my question is to the Prime Minister. When he told this House on the 9th of February that New Zealand taxes consumption at a relatively low rate, was he aware that New Zealand had the 6th highest rate of consumption taxation in the OECD as a percentage of GDP? If not, why not?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr Speaker, when I made the statement he refers to, I was aware that 23 out of 29 OECD countries had a higher rate of GST or VAT than New Zealand. Only Canada, Japan, Switzerland, Korea and Australia had lower rates of GST. My statement was therefore 100% correct.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr Speaker, in calculating the way that figure, the way the Prime Minister has chosen to, has he taken into account that actually New Zealanders pay more GST because there are hardly any exemptions, whereas most of the other countries at the ordinary headline rate have major exemptions?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr Speaker, yes, it's called broad-based low rate and it was designed by Phil Goff and his government in 1986.
Mr Speaker, point of order, Mr Speaker.
Point of order, the Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr Speaker, I seek leave to table the OECD stat extracts that show that New Zealand, before the GST increase, has the 6th highest rate of consumption taxes as a percentage of GDP.
Order, can I just check, was this document, I seem to have a recollection.
No, it's a different document from yesterday's. Yesterday's was a bar graph showing that. This is the actual extract from the OECD.
I apologise, and it's an extract from an OECD document?
OECD statistics extracts.
Leave us sought to table that document. Is there any objection? There is no objection.
Mr
Honourable Leader of the
Speaker,
Opposition.
Supplementary question. Why did the Prime Minister push consumption tax GST up still further when he promised not to?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr Speaker, as I said some time ago, when I was asked the question about whether GST would rise, it was in relation to covering deficits. That's not why we are raising GST, is because we are also lowering personal income taxes. But what I do know is the last time GST was raised in this country, I think it was in 1989 by a then Labor government, with no compensation for anyone.
Speaker.
Point of order, the Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr Speaker, I seek leave of the House to table this document that says National is not going to be raising GST.
Order. Before anything's quoted from the document, we know what the document is. What's the source of the document?
The source of the document, it's actually originally a video that the Prime Minister said on television, but this is from the Herald.
Order, we're not going to be tabling statements from videos. Does the member have a supplementary question?
Supplementary question, Mr Speaker. Is the increased rate of GST going to take more from low to middle income people as a proportion of their income than from wealthy people?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr Speaker, I don't believe so, no.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Where do you live in?
Mr Speaker, supplementary question.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr Speaker, I'm sure that's not the world that you lived in. It was directed at the Prime Minister.
It was the member's colleague who interjected inappropriately.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. My supplementary to the Prime Minister is, what is the government's estimate of how much in dollar terms the increase in the rate of GST will add to the average price of a new home for a first home buyer?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr Speaker, I don't have that to hand. If the member wants to put it in writing, I can get it from.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr Speaker, supplementary question. Would the Prime Minister think that if the average cost of construction was about $300,000, the extra price a new home purchaser will be paying is around about $7,000 to $8,000 extra in tax?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr Speaker, that may or may not be correct. We'll need to go and work our way through that. But what I can say is that the single most important factor, Mr Speaker, the single most important factor on someone's affordability of a home is interest rates and their after-tax income. Under a national government...
Mr Speaker.
Point of order, the Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr Speaker, I think the Prime Minister answered the question by saying that he didn't know, and that was the answer, and the rest of it's extraneous.
Exactly right.
I do accept the point of order that it was a very, very tight question, and therefore there shouldn't be further information.
Supplementary question, Mr Speaker. Mr Speaker, how many letters has the Prime Minister received recently, like this one in my hand that was copied to me but addressed to him, saying that the relentless increase in government charges like accident compensation, road user charges and soon GST and taxes on property have put this man out of business, and that he, Mr Key, is out of touch with the costs facing ordinary income earners in this country?
The Right Honourable
Mr Speaker, I get around about 2,000 pieces of correspondence, I think, a week, so I can't tell you exactly, but what I can say is I've never had a hand-delivered note written by a member of my caucus telling me I'm out-skied, that's for sure.
But neither have I, Mr Speaker.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Point of order, Mr Speaker.
Point of order. Order. A point of order has been called. Order.
My point of order, Mr Speaker, is to seek the leave of the House to table the letter that I've just referred to, where the gentleman concerned said that Mr Keys effectively put him out of business.
Leave us sort of table a letter from a New Zealander, apparently. Is there any objection to that? There is objection. Question number... Order. Order. Question number 2, Dr Russell Norman.